Yes.
Like I told her, I didn't wear the Kentucky
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you all for being here, especially on a really nice, mild August day for us. So to come inside means an awful lot today. So I'm going to call the WeGo Public Transit Board meeting to order. And first on our agenda is the approval of the July 26, 2018 minutes.
Move adoption. Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries, so we do have minutes for July 26th. Next, we have our public comment section, and for our public comment section, I have several comments. So I think for today, because it's the way this room is configured, that no one needs, if you can just stand where you are, I think we should be able to hear you. If not, I'll let you know. And just to refresh your recollection, or for those who have not come for public comments before, we allow 3 minutes for public comments, and I'll give you a signal when you have 1 minute left. I'll call the first name and go from there. James Brown.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
As we said, my name is James Brown, and I'm the APAC Chair, the Access Ride Policy Advisory Committee Chair. I also work for the Tennessee Department of Transportation in the Bureau of Engineering as a Transportation Program Supervisor. So I just wanted to, I'm new on the committee, and our job is to help sort of advise the MTA board on how to make transportation excellence for the elderly and the disabled here in Tennessee. So I just wanted to thank you for what you do, introduce myself, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for coming to share. Jerome, I don't think that's Brown. Bowen. It's Bowen.
Right.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bowen.
How are you all?
Good, thank you.
I'm here on behalf of two reasons. One of the reasons I was concerned, and the gentleman asked a question earlier about DBE companies. I'm always born with Humanity Transportation. And I want to know also if you all have opportunity for DBE companies. And I heard a question asked, I just want to say I'm just here to listen and learn on behalf of my company.
Thank you for being here, Mr. Brown. Rhonda Clark.
I'm Rhonda Clark. I have used some form of MTA access ride paratransit in Nashville for close to 23 years. It's been 23 years in January. I'm currently using both U-Serve and access ride because of the hours that the pilot is 6 to 6. But my hope is that the hours be extended, not only for me, but for everybody, so that if you want to use the access on demand service, regardless of which provider it is, that you're able to choose which provider you use. I work from 12:45 to 9:15 p.m. Monday through Friday. And when I was using Access Ride in the morning, I would have to get picked up between 10 and 10:30 to ensure that I get to work on time. And I was getting occurrence after occurrence after occurrence if I didn't go that early. So when I started using the U-Serve service in February, my last occurrence from last year rolled off March 29th. And my supervisor at my job said, because of your transportation issues, you will never not have an occurrence. Guess what? I don't have any. Yeah, I could still be using my badge and ride for free every day, everywhere I go, for work. I don't use it for anything else other than that. But I would rather spend the $6 a trip and get there. I get picked up right now at 11:45, and I'm there by the latest I'm ever there is 11:45. And I clock in by 12:38. One day, the provider was like getting to me. But I still got to work on time. I took a down elevator to go up, because I was bound and determined not to get in the current. I got upstairs on the 6th floor at 12:34. I clocked in at 12:38. So it works. And please give us a choice who we can use. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Appreciate it. Dan Dillon.
That's me. Good
Oh,
afternoon,
Mr. Dillon.
everybody.
Good afternoon.
I also serve on the Access Ride Policy Advisory Committee and work with the representatives from MTA. We meet every other month and we try to work together to improve the paratransit service for Davidson County. And I know I'm limited with time, but I just want to say that we want to work closer with the MTA board, and I would just like to mention one problem that I had a week ago Tuesday. Mid-Tennessee Council of the Blind has a blind golf program, and we go to the trouble to get volunteers to assist blind people to hit a golf ball, and we get a pro golfer there to give pro instruction to these blind participants. Well, I had a 5 o'clock pickup, and they didn't come. They weren't there by 6 o'clock, so I had to cancel my golf program. And I'm into golf, and I wasn't too happy about that. So when we go to all the trouble to set up the program, and we can't even get to the program because of the inefficient transportation service, that's very troubling to me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask you a question, just out of curiosity? Who was your provider that you called for a ride?
It was cab company. I'm not sure if it was taxi or Allied taxi. But they never showed up.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dillon. I appreciate you coming to share with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And you're welcome anytime if you want to know more about what we do as a board. So.
You got, at least 2 of us want to talk to you about your handicap. But not your blindness.
People ask me, when they realize I'm a golfer, and they say, what's your handicap? And I said, tell them I'm totally blind.
Well, mine is 13.6, I'm just saying.
All that ambiguous English language that I tell you. Okay, let's get back on track. Lori Mabry? Mabry.
She's over there.
Yeah, she's in the chair.
Okay.
Hi, I am Lori Mabry, the Vice Chair of APAC. I just want to introduce myself and tell you I love on-demand program. Please be...
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today, Ms. Mabry.
You might not have caught it, but at the end she said she loves the on-demand program. Please keep.
I heard it.
Okay.
Loud and clear. Thank you.
Thank you for that and that clarification, because it probably didn't pick up on the recording, so thank you very much. Danny Mosley.
Danny Mosley, that would be me. Good
All
afternoon,
right.
everyone.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mosley.
I am a new member of the APAC committee,
Welcome.
and what brought me to these meetings is some complaints that I had, and I met with some people at Access Ride, Wood, Maryland, and I thought, you know, since I got some complaints and everything, I might as well offer some possible solutions. So that's why I got involved in these meetings, because I know that there are other people that have problems, that have complaints, that maybe don't realize that they have a voice, and I want to be that voice. So that's why I'm here.
Great.
Mr. Mosley, you are a good voice, so we're glad that you are here today. Thank you very much.
Just bring some more sodas with you when you come.
Mr. O'Connor.
That's me. Since I'm still having a little problem with my feet, I think I'll just sit while I talk, but I believe I can speak loud enough. I've got several things here that I want to touch on. One is, since we got a new system going on, the old change cards that those of us who spent money on these cards, one bus driver, I went to go put them in, it wasn't taken, and the bus driver told me that they don't take these anymore. I said, well, I spent money, on change cards. Now they should be honored. That's one. Also, lately I've been noticing that seems to be a problem with some drivers not wearing their seatbelts, which I've already reported, 2 of those. You may want to get, with the necessary people to address that with all drivers to make sure that they're all wearing their seatbelts. Also, a couple people who are ex-drivers with the MTA that I've been speaking with have been telling me that some drivers are looking to get away from MTA because the potential of losing their pensions. If that's the case, some people may say, well, that's none of our business. Yes, it is, because it could cause a shortage of drivers, especially new drivers. And if that's the case, then that would only result in buses being late, and various problems, for the riders. So I believe that should be an issue to be addressed if that's true. I'm not saying it is true. I don't know, but it's just word from ex-drivers that I've heard. Also, a few people, including myself, have been interested to find out is there a completion date when MCC will be finished with all the construction going on. And then, of course, my usual pestering for extended bus hours, and extended customer service that should be, going on as long as the bus is running. So that's it for me.
Well, thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
That's right.
Go ahead.
Change cards are still valid, so you got misinformation, Peter, so feel free to use them. No, there's no change in the pension. That's number 2. And MCC by the end of November, Trey?
Yeah.
By the end of November.
There you go.
Don't want to let some of that fester.
And you still got it in within 3 minutes. So, okay.
Now, did you mean it would be easier to get fired and therefore lose the pension? Which one?
Seatbelt violation?
Well, in light of that, Mr. Thomas.
How do? Just got a few, more than just a few, let's say, On the 2nd of the month, the bus that leaves from Jump 933 came down Tampa Drive, and when the light turned green, it came out and stopped at right in the crosswalk area, waiting for their cars on the other side to go across it. They waited for him to turn, and he stayed through the whole green light into the red light, and didn't move until the next green light. So he's blocking that pedestrian crosswalk the entire time, which that's a violation of driver's DMV code. On the 3rd, the Fit 2 V that's supposed to leave from Walmart outbound at 11:10 approximately was 5 minutes early according to the bus app, but the bus schedule says he was on time. So I missed that bus halfway from the next bus. I was looking at the bus app, not the bus schedule. On the 3rd, the Fit 2B from the jailhouse, when I got off the bus at 11:33 at Harding, Tampa, I had the crosswalk to go across the street, and while me and that person were crossing the street, a bus coming down Tampa was turning while we were walking across the street, which that according to DMV is not proper either, because you're supposed to wait until you're able to proceed in the direction you're going. On the 5th, I noticed that the accident ride bus number 379, the driver's side headlight was out. That may cause problems with the police. On the 19th, bus number 1702, 52B at left the Walmart at 12:30. There's a customer on the bus urinating to the subway cup. He's sitting in the back, so maybe we can bring that to watch some videos and make sure stuff like that doesn't happen again. Today, while I was waiting for the Shelby Street bus heading back downtown, one of the guys that was waiting with me said that he's told the shopping carts like that there will no longer be allowed on the bus, so I'm going to get some clarification on that as well. And then the last one was a friend of mine that sells hot dogs downtown on 4th Avenue in a hot dog cart. Was told by the supervisor, Rosetta, which gave that to him, that she didn't want to see him back down there selling hot dogs.
Hot dog supervisor or MTA supervisor?
I think MTA supervisor, Rosetta is her name.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Knight.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My complaint consists of repeated issues of maintenance.
Mr. Knight, I hate to interrupt, but can you I can't see you too well. I just want to make sure we get all of your comments in. So thank you, I appreciate that.
The issue is still consisting of maintenance issues with the buses. I've seen some issues with the new buses, unfortunately. On my way from downtown to catch the night at Metro Center to get here, I experienced one of the 1800 buses on Route 25. Looks like the company that painted the bus didn't do it so well, because you can clearly see where there were inconsistencies in the paint. I've seen issues where the buses has a burning smell, and I think that's very strange. Due to the simple fact that some of these buses have went into service probably the last 2 or 3 weeks. And I mean, just kind of considering the situation, I think everybody needs to check into that situation very quickly. The display signs, I really have an issue with, because I could see a display sign going out in 5 years, but if we have buses that we got in 2015 and they no longer work, that's a problem. And then on top of that, the 1800 buses and 1700 buses, the new display signs have lines in them, or they either say EOL. So I've actually reported that multiple times, where there's another company that deals with the actual display part of it for it to be displayed, but the manufacturer is actually the problem, because if you actually have a display and the display is in like an ambient orange color and you see a complete line through there, that means that the pixels are either dead or they were damaged in the process of being put on the bus. So the other issue is I'm a little bit concerned with some of the drivers. Apparently, ever since I went to a Metro Council meeting, I've been identified by multiple different drivers who think it's my responsibility to fight their battles. Now, I don't mind standing in the middle trying to help all sides involved, but there's only so much I can literally do. So literally from that point, I've asked you all as the staff, and I'm going to ask the board, if you see bus drivers, if they have questions, please talk to these drivers, because I had a very weird situation happen to me yesterday. A customer service rep told me when I called him and asked him, where do I catch the number 17? He told me to walk to 12th Avenue, only to find out after I got ready to walk towards 12th Avenue that the bus was coming. So the bus driver was nice enough to literally pick me up at a non-MTA bus stop. So literally at that point, I was furious, didn't call back to either report him because I knew exactly who he was. But I need you all to get customer service on board, and when these route changes take effect in 2019, I want to make sure that all the staff and even the board is aware of whatever changes is done to every single route. Everybody needs to actually have the actual schedule in front of them. And if at all possible, can you all take the time out to literally ride the bus at least a week or so within the next 6 months?
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Mr. Bull.
Thank you.
Haven't seen you in a while, Mr. Bull.
I finally figured out where and when.
Welcome back.
I'm a frequent rider. I intend to ride the bus, got the transfers 8 times today. That's typical. 4 items. The ADA and the mobility on demand, particularly the latter, I think that's magnificent. Being cheap, I wish the price point was a little bit less, but the fact that it's being done makes a real statement. And I also have to add, I'm glad that Uber and Lyft were not even in the mix on this. We'll just go on and not go down that rabbit hole. The new buses, the electric ones, the 2 electric ones, I'm delighted to hear that they're a little bit cheaper and they're 5 feet longer. Mercy, that makes a statement right there. And the sight lines apparently are good for the driver, which is very important. And also, speaking about the new purple buses, I like the seats. There's something about, you can clean them, you can notice that they're messy, and the wireless connectors that you stick to the side to keep your cell phone from dying is something I was not expecting, and that's cool. That's good. That's good. Music City Central, I really like the way y'all are handling the transition. I'm glad November will get here soon enough. The upstairs lobby directly outside Dunkin' Donuts, maybe some benches or some chairs, just to have people chill out while they're waiting on the bus. I like the lighting downstairs. The LEDs really kick in. And that's pretty much it. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bull. I do not have any more public comment slips, but if someone does have one and did not give me a slip, I'm certainly happy to hear your comments. Is anybody else?
Can we say thank you for following us around? I was telling Mr. Knight coming in here, it can feel like a scavenger hunt finding you. So thank you for coming to these meetings. It's not easy to run us down, so we really appreciate it.
We've had more board members get lost than customers.
I had to come early today.
Well, I got here early because I didn't know where I was going. So.
But we go where WeGo goes, right? So, but my sentiments exactly, and the further Ms. Miller's sentiments, you know, your comments mean something to us, and your comments help WeGo to be a better transit system, and we view your comments as support for the work that is done every day. So I thank you all for being here, and we too will be glad when WeGo Center opens back up at the end of November. Thanks everybody, and happy almost fall. So next on our agenda, Mr. Searcy.
Yes, ma'am.
Operations and Finance Committee.
We have a couple of items that we discussed in committee for the board's consideration. The first item is the recommendation by staff to purchase 2 electric buses and related sub-equipment, supply, and materials. Our committee reviewed this. We had some discussion regarding it, and we now recommend it to the board for its consideration.
With that being a committee recommendation and not requiring a second, any discussion? There being no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? For your motion carries, and we will have new electric buses.
All right. The second proposition we considered was the recommendation from staff regarding legal services contracts to be distributed to 2 firms, Dodson, Parker, and Bradley, and the secretarial services to continue to be the exclusive province of Dodson Parker. After significant discussion regarding that, we are prepared now to recommend to the full board the adoption of that recommendation.
That being a committee recommendation, not requiring a second, is there any discussion?
Did Margaret say yes? Yes, of course. Okay, I just wanted to make sure you said yes.
Right, we want to get Margaret's vote, that's right.
And if I could just, just take a point of privilege to talk a little bit about Margaret Dim. Margaret Dim has been with us for a substantial amount of years, and I can say that her legal work has been exemplary. her taking care of us as board members to make certain that we understand the rules appropriately and that we conduct ourselves in a way consistent with the charter has been exemplary as well. And to that, it is just great to know that you continue to make WeGo, formerly known as MTA, because that MTA history is really critically important to who we are right now. That, just grateful to know that you're going to continue to stay with us, which is great news.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity working with you. I appreciate the opportunity to work with Bradley. I see Todd present also in the audience. So, whatever we can do on behalf of the agency to make it even better, I know we'll be there for y'all.
Thank you. And Bradley, welcome.
Thank you. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, they were actually out in the hallway during the committee meeting, but we do have Todd Presnell and Janad Adebeco with Bradley Aaron.
Nice to meet you all. Welcome. It'll be great. Although we haven't voted yet. She's coming. You'll find us. We have a recommendation and we don't need a second. We've had discussion. Is there any more discussion? That being said, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Say aye. The motion carries. Welcome both of you to the WeGo world. So thank you. Margaret, glad to have you back.
That concludes the business of the Operations and Finance Committee.
Do you want to say anything about this stuff? Pretty good. Okay. Next. Thank you very much. Ms. Miller.
Okay. So
NICE report.
The NICE report. The new initiative from the Community Engagement Committee had a great discussion. Two items we would like to bring to the board for consideration. The first is the 2019 capital budget. I'm sitting here trying to figure out how I'm going to capture this in spare words. For anybody, this is a really great primer on funding sources for MTA. So if you really want to know every program and where it comes from, it was a really great background piece.
Or if you have insomnia.
Or if you can't sleep as well. So essentially, we took a look at the funding situation. We need to come up with a directional recommendation for the capital budget for 2019. So we aren't doing a line by line, let's buy this, let's do this. This is a directional discussion. And there were 7 areas that the capital budget is focused on for 2019 going into 2020. I'll say the majority of capital improvement, as you can imagine, is new fleet, right? So we've got to keep retiring the old buses, bringing in new service. So that is the lion's share. But the areas are really safety, number one, which is always paramount for the organization. Projects that have been committed from prior years, the funding that we need to complete those projects. Preventative maintenance, so transfer for budget to be sure preventative maintenance is where it should be. State of good repair, of course. Business improvements. We want to keep making service improvements. We want to keep working on the in-motion strategy and improving frequency, length of service. As much of that as we can add is something that we want to focus on. And then system expansion. So again, we may not have millions and millions of dollars of more money, but we are dedicated as a board to continuing to improve this transit system. So that would be in our recommendation for the capital budget for 2019. So the board had good discussion, and we would like to bring a recommendation to the board that we approve the 2019 capital plan as presented with those 7 focus areas.
Did that well.
Thank you.
Better than I did.
Would that be in a...
Low bar.
Shade up here. Would that be in a committee recommendation? Is there any further discussion? I just want to add that I think that it was well done and well thought through, and really appreciate that we have this guide to sort of help us do the work that we do, and recognize that it took you all probably an extraordinary amount of time to prepare this, so thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay. Okay, our second line item for the NICE committee has to do with our ADA capacity and our access on demand service. And we have a current contract that expires in October of 2018 with a one specific taxi vendor. Somebody tell me if I'm getting out of my lane here, but
you're good.
And that contract will be up in October. And I love it when the staff looks at going at things in a different way that can help better serve the customer. And so the staff put their brains around this and said, let's not just approve another contract. Let's see if we can improve the system and do things differently. So they put together an RFP that was a little unusual, which looked at adding potentially multiple vendors on the taxi overflow piece of this rather than one vendor. And also, things are changing so quickly with the access ride, so we need to be prepared for mobility on demand adaptation. We need to be prepared for first and last mile new things as are coming along. So I want to commend the staff for putting together a plan that I think is a really great move in the right direction. And we talked about it, competition's not a bad thing. And so having multiple vendors, we feel like will really be a great thing for quality for access rides. So the RFP went out. 6 proposals were received by the staff. The evaluation committee went through the analysis. And the recommendation has come back that we recommend that we award contracts to 4 companies for the provision of the WeGo Access and the WeGo Access on Demand services for an initial 3-year term not to exceed $20 million, and then 2 additional 1-year options not to exceed $7 million per year. And something that I thought was a really interesting aspect of this is, as we get into this contract will allow us to allocate resource to the highest quality providers, which again, I think is a really good thing for the customer and for WeGo. So that is where we are on that. The funding source is in place through the WeGo Access operating funds. So really, this is just a new way of approaching a contract with multiple vendors. Did I get that, Dan? Okay, great. So that is our recommendation to the board.
That being a recommendation of the committee, not requiring a second, is there any further discussion?
Thank you to everybody who came today that's representing this particular part of our constituency. This is our fastest growing customer base, and your voices are so important, and it isn't easy to get here in the middle of the day, so thank you. It's so good to meet you finally.
Can I ask a question real quick? One thing, I think it was Ms. Clark brought up, what are the hours that on demand?
Access on demand, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. It is still considered, as you've had reported, it's still considered a pilot program, and should be. Do we have a time frame yet on the full evaluation?
Full evaluation will be later this year. I think probably we could look at October, November. We already have preliminary results in from the first 3 months of service of the pilot, but we wanted to give it a bit more time to get some more.
So as we go forward with this program, and let's say the demand, the information shows that we need to expand those hours or whatever it is, will that work within that, or is this?
What you'll see, and the reason I asked Dan that question is, so probably in that November, December time frame, you'll get kind of a full-blown assessment of the pilot. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, what have you, the customer reaction, quality, demands for service, the cost piece, where that's headed. And that will give us some future direction, because the guidelines for the pilot are eventually, we're allowed to be fairly flexible in the pilots. Eventually, when we say, well, this is going to be a permanent part of our service mix, then we have to go through a public engagement process to actually, kind of put something in place.
In part of that evaluation process, are we talking to not only the folks that are here today, but other folks that are actually using day-to-day service?
Yeah, we're doing follow-up surveys with folks who are using it, and by provider, and as was suggested, people are using both, and both traditional
what is the fare for
The premium service is $6.
Premium
Up
is
to a certain, the premium is like, I use the user of service and they've contracted with another provider, Senior Solutions. I pay $6 every morning to get to work.
Up to 16 miles.
Up to 16 miles, and then it's $1 a mile. Go ahead, sorry.
Okay, this is Marilyn, I'm the Access Web Manager. The way we structured the pilot, each vendor that participates in the pilot, and currently it's Mobility Solutions operating as on-demand mobility, Taxi USA, and USERV. They have their own cost structure as regards to the MTA exposure. From the customer standpoint, it's $6 for 16 miles, and then it's $1 for each whole mile after that. It's not billed.
And that's one way, right? That's two.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion?
If I can I ask one question?
I'll tell you what, how about we ask one question afterwards?
Okay, that
This
works.
is the time for our board.
Okay.
So, okay, but thank you, but we'll get you after.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Where was I? Oh, no further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And again, I would echo the sentiment that it was good that MTA worked closely with the community, so glad to sort of see that as well. Ms. Miller, anything further?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, we're done.
Okay. Well, the chair's report, I've been around a good while here at MTA WeGo, and I get the amazing fortune to meet some incredible people that work here at MTA WeGo. And one incredible person decided a couple weeks ago that it was time to retire and devote her time to her family and to some things that she likes. But not before she did incredible things for MTA. And I, as a board member, am grateful, and I'm grateful that I've been on this board enough to be in her presence. And the good thing is that I always run into her at the grocery store too, so I'm going to, you know, our time is on aisle 4. We go in the aisle that, you know, nobody else is in, because otherwise people push you out, you know, that on-demand shopping and everything. But Kathy, if you could come up. We got it right. Kathy almost got some secrets too, I think, right?
I think I've bought out most of them.
Well, on behalf of the MTA board, we have a resolution for you. Okay, whereas Kathy Owen was a dedicated employee for the Davidson Transit Organization for 14 years, having been hired in 2004. Serving both Nashville Metropolitan Transit Authority and the Regional Transportation Authority of Middle Tennessee. Whereas the Nashville MTA Board of Directors, that's all of us here, and even some who are not here any longer, wishes to recognize Kathy Owen for her exceptional dedication and achievements during her 14 years of service as the Executive Assistant to the Chief Executive Officer position. And whereas the board commends Kathy Owen for her dedicated contributions, including, but not limited to, Kathy, provided outstanding leadership and service as liaison to both the Nashville MTA and RTA Board of Directors, oversaw and directed the assimilation of Nashville MTA and RTA board information, served as senior leader among administrative support staff, also serving on the Metro Executive Secretaries Association. As a member, past president, and member of the year, successfully maintained all board policies, coordinated travel, and served as an integral part of the development of the company's travel policy. Had the ability to change direction or quickly adapt in a second, especially when it came to the ever-changing schedule of the CEO. Just saying. Provided her super organizational skills to the position. Actively provided leadership, assistance, and support for the betterment of both the Nashville MTA and RTA on local and regional levels through community and business relationships, meetings, conferences, and public outreach. Provided additional administrative support to all senior management, always offering helpful guidance and organization.
Like when to see me and when not.
Was an integral part of selecting the decor and offering helpful input in the layout of my offices. I remember that, Kathy, and it's a lovely space. It really is. Was a calming presence in helping to return order to the agencies following the historic flood of 2010. Served as an active member and enjoyed the camaraderie of her Friday team building luncheons. I never got invited to those, so I don't know. It was really good, yes. Now, but I do know you had very good lunches for retiring board members when we had retiring board members, so I always appreciated your efforts with that. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Nashville MTA Board that appreciation and gratitude are offered to Kathy Owen for her outstanding contributions and her dedication to Davidson Transit Organization, Nashville MTA, and the Regional Transportation Authority of Middle Tennessee during the last 14 years. And further resolved that Kathy's abilities and knowledge was an asset to Nashville MTA and RTA and will be greatly, greatly, greatly missed. And finally resolved that Kathy's talent and skills will be well used into her retirement years as a wife, mother, grandmother, partner, friend, and budding artist. This resolution is made the 23rd day of August 2018, signed by Margaret, Janet, Hannah, Gail, Glenn, and Walter. And Kathy, you have, I can't even tell you how amazing. We've been on this journey together, and you have indeed taken extreme, excellent, and loving care of all of us. So,
Dilly.
Say a few words, Kat. You don't know how much she loves this.
Well, I do thank the board, members present and members past. It's been my honor to serve you. It's been my honor to serve as Steve's assistant and Paul before him. Margaret, you've been with me the whole journey, as you have, Gail. And my best wishes to the community and to all Nashville MTA WeGo staff, and you've been friends and great comrades, and I just have the very, very best, richest, and warmest memories to carry with me. And here we go.
MTA has many blessings, and so Kathy, again, thank you. And after that, that concludes my report.
Ms. Clark.
Pardon?
Don't forget Ms. Clark.
I'll get her when we conclude the board meeting. I won't forget you.
Okay.
Oh, not forget you.
My turn?
Your turn.
Well, this will be anticlimactic, so I'll warn you ahead. Can't top that. Just a few things. Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Just a few things to update the board on. With respect to our Murfreesboro Road project, contractors continue to work along. We're still on schedule. Thanks to Rita and Margaret and folks over at Metro Legal, we've resolved the last of our property issues. We have our easements in place for the airport and others. So really the last of the critical path items that I know our project team are working on is our utility make-ready work with NES and other utility contractors, so we can start hanging fiber by the end of September. We met with senior leadership of NES last week to convey to them the, shall I say, the visibility of this project if we don't advance it on schedule, and they are bending over backwards to work with us, so we're very appreciative of that. Tonight, we've spoken periodically about the ebbs and flows of our transit center contract. So tonight, Rita and I are going to meet with members of the community and Councilman Kendall's district to talk about our potential Clarksville site. So we're looking forward to the feedback on that. Just wanted to remind everybody, I know you've been getting emails from me, and I've been mentioning at the last few board meetings, we will be hosting the American Public Transportation Association's annual meeting national conference here in Nashville at the end of September at the Omni and the Convention Center and all assorted places in Nashville where visitors usually come to. So Glenn, that week not only will you see a whole lot of tourists, you're going to see tourists who know more about buses than most.
I'll be taking the bus every day.
And invite you. I know I forwarded the program, so if any members are interested in attending parts of that program, please let me know and we'll get you credentialed. By now, I suspect you have seen the WeGo buses in service. They look sharp. We've received all the coaches. Indy updated you on that, and our van deliveries are starting to commence. So we'll see fleet moving into service over the next couple of months.
They have a cigar line in Germany in buses.
Yeah.
On the top.
On top.
On top.
Exterior.
Yeah, roof cigar lounges.
So in one of the committees, this is not your time. In one of our earlier committee meetings, Chair Miller was talking about the downtown and the congestion, so I hate to throw water on everybody's balloon, but in the last couple weeks we attended the kickoff meeting with the Convention and Visitors Corporation with the National Football League to prepare for next spring's NFL draft. And the good news to come out of that meeting, if you're a transit rider or a transit driver, is thank God they're having it the same weekend as the marathon. So, good weekend to plan for extra time. Draft activities will be centered around the typical Lower Broadway, Riverfront Park area, and they are anticipating several 100,000 visitors in town. So remember, it will be a great event with worldwide attention. Hang in there with us.
What weekend is it, so I avoid downtown?
It's the end of April.
Last weekend in April.
Okay.
Following up, we had extensive conversations the last few board meetings over our evolving advertising policy and work with our vendor. In the last couple weeks, Jason Mincer and Ed Oliphant and I met with the vendor, conveyed those goals, and we're reformulating goals. So we have extended their contract. They're on board with our targets, and we will be providing you periodic updates on where we stand with respect to the program.
So we will not see advertising on the new buses until you all come back to us.
Yeah, we basically, what we did with the vendor is we set aside 45 vehicles of our choosing that would remain ad-free. So it will be the 31 new WeGo buses, and I know Rick's crew is starting to experiment with painting fleet, so as we put service in that livery, we'll hold that out. Now at some point, obviously we hope we have more than 45 buses painted WeGo. So we'll have to visit, back at that point. This past meeting, we had our regular quarterly meeting with FTA Region 4 staff. This time we hosted them here in Nashville. We went through a number of our projects in progress, including Murfreesboro Road, Music City Central renovations, fleet projects, and a number of others. They were very pleased with progress. And I want to particularly thank Billy Higgins, our Capital and Grants Administrator. Her organization, I would say she is probably the best grants administrator in the country. And during the APTA convention here, I'll have the opportunity to tell the FTA Administrator that. She'll be here in town, and we're taking on a relatively brief tour of the system while she's in town. Dan and Rob and our fare collection project team hosted a meeting with our vendors and consultants on the fare collection project with our regional providers, Franklin Transit, Murfreesboro Rover. I would say the RTA, because technically I was there and Ed was there and a number of RTA management were there, in trying to move this toward a truly regional and seamless project. And there's very much interest. Murfreesboro plans on participating in the project. Franklin is leaning in that direction, and we'll likely get Clarksville on board as well. I always try to keep you updated on RTA items of interest, remembering we wear a couple of different hats. We did receive this week, thank you Trey for your diligence, our temporary certificate of occupancy for Hamilton Springs Station in Lebanon. So we're actually going to be doing a soft opening of Hamilton Springs this coming Monday. The train will be stopping at Hamilton Springs, picking up passengers, not just testing to make sure it doesn't clear the platform. And we will have a formal ribbon cutting with the Mayor of Lebanon, Mayor of Wilson County on September 6th. And if you all are available, we would love to have you there. Work continues with the Metropolitan Planning Organization on our South Corridor study, so looking at alternatives in the Davidson, Williamson, Murray County corridor. We are starting the design process on the expansion of the Mount Juliet Park and Ride, which is kind of severely overcrowded at this point, particularly now the schools are back in session. So we'll be looking to expand that lot. Ed and I and Shelley got to meet with Dixon City and Dixon County officials about the future of that service. Their CMAQ funding expires next year. There's a desire to continue service, so we're working through a variety of scenarios to keep that up. And somewhat in the news this week, I attended a joint meeting of Metro Council's Planning Committee and their Affordable Housing Task Force on the Donaldson TOD Development Zone legislation. And if you don't remember what that is, it basically would create an area. In the case of Donaldson, it was about 145 acres, creating the capability for tax increment financing to go through on projects through MDHA. The legislation did not pass. It was relatively close. And at the work session, to be frank, there wasn't a whole lot directed at the RTA or MTA. There were some general questions on transit-oriented development. The issues were centered really more around, how we use TIF funds and what that does to ultimate taxing capacity. So from an RTA perspective, we'll regroup with our development partner and others in Metro to see how we might be able to advance that project regardless. We are scheduling public meetings in Donaldson, Mount Juliet, and Lebanon in late September, early October on schedule changes on the Music City Star. Those schedule changes will include a proposed elimination of Friday night service. One night a week we run a later night trip, more for social. And the reason for that discontinuation, it is a condition of a limited service exception we received from the Federal Railroad Administration to be able to defer Positive Train Control System, which is a $20 to $25 million advanced communication, emergency braking software system. And frankly, the RTA just doesn't. There are other spending priorities in terms of service reliability. And then finally, I will try to get in the last word. Gail did it way more eloquently and way more appreciatively than I can, because I have a hard time verbalizing what's in my heart with respect to Kathy. I've said it about a dozen times. We will fill your position. We will not replace you, mainly because we have to. She's off to better things. She has promised she will stay in touch. So usually I try to end on a good news note, and I guess I'll qualify it by saying it's really good news for you and your family. Jim, maybe not. The jury's out on that. I will only take it as a positive in that I just hit my 4-year anniversary, and I think she finally figured out after 4 years there's really not much more she can do to me. So that I must be either fully trained or she's completely given up, and time to let other people do that work. So I would join Gail and the board's sentiment, and really for all the Metro Transit Authority's staff, WeGo staff, RTA board members who are similarly distressed by the news. Although I am using it as an excuse. I was 3 days late responding to an email from Mayor Moore. I said, without Kathy, I can't. And his answer was, I completely understand. So with that, Madam Chair, and with deepest appreciation to Kathy, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Blaine. That was a very good report. Is there any other business? That being said, we are adjourned.